Finding skilled, hardworking employees is hard enough, but getting them to do what you want is even harder. How do I get them to sell? How do I get them to follow my process? How do I get them to work together? How do I get them to really take care of the customer?
I think most bosses just don't understand how to communicate with their guys. And so when their techs don't perform, they just want to fire them.
When we did our first $1 million year, everything was a complete mess. Nobody was following systems and we were falling behind because... What's up, Joel?
Hey, Jared, how's it going?
It's going good, you know? It's my favorite day, Podcast Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, it is a nice day. The calm in the storm.
You said that very like...
It is a nice day.
I'm on a podcast. I'm going to talk...
Jared, it is a nice day on these podcast days.
You don't have to be a robot, dude.
Dude, sorry, I just had a lot in my brain right there.
Okay, we're going to go over the second half of this playbook. Full transparency, we filmed this podcast before. And
a couple of times.
Twice, and we lost the footage or we lost the audio. But I have something...
We're really good at podcasts.
Yeah, third time's the charm, you know? But I have something cool. Check out this spoon.
Oh, did you make that?
I carved it.
Let me see it.
Second spoon ever.
Dang, that's a pretty good spoon.
It is.
Have you used it to eat?
No.
I think it's going to break, though. It's kind of flimsy. You know, why haven't you used it to eat?
I just made it out of a 2x4, so... I didn't get, like, carving wood.
I guess it makes sense. You should probably try something with just a 2x4.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to carve it?
A couple hours. It's not the easiest thing. Like, I need to get a carving knife.
Yeah.
I just made it with my hatchet and my box knife, my Milwaukee box knife.
Yeah.
And then... I started a fire and burned some charcoal in the middle and then scraped it out with a rock.
Why'd you do that?
Just because I couldn't get my box knife in there. Like they make knives specifically for carving out the middle of spoons.
Yeah.
So.
And so you just had to burn it out a little bit so that you could
So I could carve it out with a rock.
You had the right angle. Dang. What?
And then I did finish it with some sandpaper. I cheated a little bit.
What prompted you to make a spoon in the first place?
I was bored.
Yeah, we were talking about you need a hobby.
I do. So this is why I brought this up. I'm going to start whittling. I'm going to whittle a little.
Listen, everybody.
So when I get in a retirement home, I can out-whittle all my old folks' home buddies, you know?
Yeah, Jared's goal in life is to land a retirement home with no whittlers. You know, or you should try to find one where there's like mediocre whittlers and you just go smash.
They are going to be mediocre. Nobody starts whittling at 38. So I'm going to out-whittle all those folks.
I don't know. You should hit that one up on TikTok and see what the TikTokers say to that comment you just made. Nobody starts whittling at 38.
Yeah, there's probably lots of people that whittle at 38.
Yeah, you're probably going to get all this hate like Jared.
Anyway, I'm going to start a new channel. It's just going to be like... I'm going to be...
ASMR?
Yeah, I'm going to be sitting on my porch. And it's just going to be like... You're just going to see my hands and you're just going to see me whittle.
Interesting.
And I'm going to always... The funny thing is I watched a bunch of videos on whittling.
Yeah.
Because I was like, what? Because I don't even know what people whittle.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, what do they whittle? What would they whittle like little figurines.
Yeah. You should whittle me a chessboard.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't think about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I would never whittle like a figurine that has no use.
Yeah, just like
I'm a very practical person.
To put on your mantle or something.
Yeah, so I'm like,
You know, you should whittle a representation of your face.
No.
Oh, come on. Then you can put it on behind you, and then it'd be like, "That's my face."
Those are everywhere. Have you seen the like garden gnomes?
I mean, yes.
That's my face.
I mean, kind of.
Like if I grew my beard out and put like a stocking cap on, I'm a garden gnome.
I'm gonna tell my kids that. They'll be like, "Look, it's Jared the garden gnome."
That's what my wife always says. She's like, "This just reminds me of you," because I used to have long hair and a stocking cap and a big beard.
Oh yeah. That makes sense. Almost needed a stocking cap today. It was freaking cold.
Dude, it frosted.
I know. And then it melted almost immediately when I turned my truck on, which I was not expecting.
No, but like, so we go, me and my wife, I wake up and make coffee. She takes forever to get downstairs. Like, jeez. I can wake up, brush my teeth, get dressed, go downstairs. I make pour over coffee, so it takes a little bit. Have the coffee made. I make butter coffee for myself. And my wife is just like walking down the stairs. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I don't even know. But then we go sit on the porch and drink our coffee, and it's like this. I have this like pride in myself. I'm gonna go sit on my porch every freaking day.
Yeah.
Because in Alaska you can't do that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And now that we're down here in Florida, it's like one of the most enjoyable things to me to wake up and the sun rises, you get the sunshine in your face. Today we didn't do it.
I was just, it was cold.
It was cold.
Did you try? Did you like go outside and we're just like, nah?
No, I looked at the backyard and it had frost on it. And I was like, I looked at my wife. She was like, I'm not going out there.
You're like, well, I'm not going out there alone. That'd be weird.
That would be weird. Yeah. I didn't get to say hi to my neighbor.
Do you say hi to him every day?
Hi-ho there. Pretty much every day, yeah. Yeah.
That's funny.
He's a very funny neighbor.
Yeah.
I like him.
Oh, man. You should have him on the podcast.
That'd be so funny. He'd be like, what is this?
Yeah. I'd be like, what is this what you do all day?
Yeah. You're recording? Is this a microphone?
Yeah, like what's going on with all this?
He'd be confused.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
It would be cool. Okay. Let's get into this thing. Enough
pointless chit chat.
Enough pointless chit chat. Let's get into the Magnus Opus.
Yeah, the Magnus Opus, brass tacks. Here we go.
Brass tacks. I think last time
Dude. I appreciate how if I say something, you will just yell it and we'll just keep going.
Dude, I've been conditioned to do that.
I know.
I literally on the job sites that we grew up with, or I grew up with, that I like was on for years and years and years.
Yeah.
We would come up with the dumbest sayings. Mm-hmm. And so whenever somebody said them, we would all just say them. And it's a habit now.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Sorry.
It's kind of like at the end of like if at the end of a prayer, like you're at church and you're praying, and then everybody claps at the end.
Yeah, you're like,
why do we all just clap once at the end of that prayer? Like,
do they do that at your church?
No.
No. I'm like, I'm not going to your church.
Nope, they don't do that.
Bunch of weirdos.
I think we did that at home church though.
Maybe, who knows? Okay, I think we left off on our employee retention framework.
Dude, we definitely left off on that.
Okay, good. There's two parts to this framework. Okay. The first part is culture. And this is a topic that has been hitting home lately. Not necessarily a bad way, but haven't really understood what company culture is, as you know. Mm-hmm. I thought that, and I think as do many people, like I had a talk with a guy today that, actually I had a talk with somebody yesterday that when they were saying company culture, it took me a bit to figure out what they were talking about.
Oh, sure.
And he viewed company culture as how you work together as a team, which is kind of right, but not the whole thing. Right?
How did you even arrive at the topic of company culture on that call?
I don't know. Just came up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to think that company culture was just like making it a cool place to work, right? Providing a bunch of ancillary benefits. Come to find out, while your employees at the moment superficially appreciate those benefits, long term they don't. And what they appreciate more is something else. And so, dude, if I build another company, there will be no weird benefits.
Yeah, I think
I will only do the things that really make the big impact.
Yeah, as far as the yeah. And why do we put in the weird benefits? Well, let's talk about what you're talking about when you say weird benefits.
So like when I was building my company, it was like, I want to make this a really cool place to work. And I thought that making it, and I still do, I want it to be a cool place to work. And it is a cool place to work. We've done a good job in some areas. But there's some areas where we just, we dropped the ball. We're not perfect. And so like we have, bonus opportunities we have that aren't necessarily tied to any performance. We have.
What do you mean by that?
Like we're just randomly giving them money for no real work on their part, right?
Like you mean like cyclical bonuses, like holiday bonuses, or just like, hey man, like it's June, here's a bonus.
Yeah. Or like holiday bonuses would be a good example.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, give a holiday bonus, which I've never been a fan of, but yet I've done them in the past.
Yeah, because it's kind of expected. Like you go somewhere and you kind of you expect a holiday bonus just because depending upon where you work.
Yeah. So to me, like when at the company that I used to work at, they would give a Christmas bonus. You would get a turkey on Thanksgiving,
Everybody would get a turkey?
Everybody get a turkey. Nobody cared about it.
No, I wouldn't want a turkey.
Nobody wanted a turkey.
Yeah.
So it was like,
I'd say just keep the turkey. I don't have a freezer space for that turkey.
yeah. So it was like, oh, okay, thanks for the turkey.
Give me a coffee card instead.
Yeah. And then let's see, on Christmas they would give $200 cash in an envelope with a little letter. The letter was cool.
Like handwritten?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was typed and then signed by the owner.
Was it individual? Like, Jared, thanks for your...
No, it was all, everybody got the same letter.
Okay.
But what's funny about that, like thinking back on it now, everybody appreciated the letter. Nobody really cared about the $200.
Why would they appreciate, like, what did the letter have in there that was worth appreciating?
Somebody saying thank you, you did a good job.
Oh.
Right.
And how did you know that guys appreciated the letter?
You could just tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They like read it and they're like, oh,
that's cool.
and they stuff the cash in their pocket.
Yeah, and they could care less.
Yeah.
And so one year we didn't get the $200, and everybody threw a fit.
But did they get the letter?
Got the letter.
Also, they didn't really appreciate the letter.
But did they really appreciate the $200?
Yeah, because they got mad because they didn't get it.
But because they gave them $200 every year, they came to expect it.
Yeah.
And then when they didn't get it,
Yeah.
it was like, I'm entitled to that $200,
Exactly. Yes.
right? And so it ended up building this culture of entitlement.
Yeah. So like when you're doing bonuses, if you do,
It needs to be tied to something.
yeah, because otherwise it just sounds like, yeah, like exactly, like you deserve this random bonus. It's not a bonus at that point. It's just an extra. It's just an extra chunk of money you get every year. Is how it's actually going to feel, right?
Yeah,
it's
guys
not, it's
are
just
gonna
tied to the date of Christmas.
They're going to come to expect it, and then when you give it, it's just they expect it. So it's not a special thing. Right?
And then you, as the business owner, are sort of committed to that bonus, and you know that if you take it away, everybody's going to feel like they're taking something away.
Yes.
So, like, you know, in Alaska, we get PFDs.
Yeah.
And we all complain when our PFD is low because we
Yeah.
say, hey, I'm entitled to $2,500 and the government wants to take some of it this year.
Yeah.
You know,
When in
and
reality, you're not entitled to any of it.
yeah, we should always just be stoked that we're getting free money,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's how it would work in your company as well.
Yes. Correct. And so there's that. There's things like, you know, stock in the fridge full of soda or beef jerky and chips in the cabinet. We buy our guys breakfast every Monday morning. Those kinds of things. Not that those things are bad.
Sure.
You just have to understand that that doesn't build a good company culture.
And like what's the broad reasoning for doing any of those things?
You think that by giving your employees extra benefits that they're going to appreciate them and then in turn give back to you.
Yeah.
As the employer.
In the form of what?
Hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what really ends up happening is like you give burritos and then one day like you switch your burrito and they don't like it.
Yeah.
And they complain, right? They don't really like the burrito becomes just like the bonus. It's just an expected thing. This is what we do here. And if you ever stop doing it or change it, it's like, where's my freaking burrito? Right?
Yeah. Or some guy's like, hey, Jared, I'd really appreciate it if you would get the burritos without the onions.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Or I don't like these tortillas.
yeah, and you're like,
Can we
dude,
get burritos from over there?
yeah, and you're like, no, like, that's not what it's about, guys.
Yeah.
Just trying to say thank you.
Yeah. And so I think if you're going to say thank you, just say thank you because it probably means a lot more.
And when you say thank you, be intentional about it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm a big proponent of like politeness within company culture just in general, just pleases and thank yous as normal. But then when you're actually trying to thank somebody, be very specific. Like, so I played music for a while growing up, and we'd play shows. And every time you get, like, when you're the first band or the second band, there's another band after you. Every time the other band walks up, they're like, great show, bro. And they, like, you know, give you this sort of BS, like, good job out there. You killed it. They probably didn't even watch you. So it's true. Like, they were doing whatever they wanted to do, especially if they're like a bigger band. So I was always very intentional that if I wanted a compliment, I'd be like, dude, I really liked how you did this specific thing when you were playing. And I could tell they're like, oh, thanks. You really listened. I was like, yeah, I was rad.
Yeah.
So same thing in your company. Like if you have somebody who's doing a good job, you want to be like, hey man, the way that you ran that call yesterday, I really appreciated. I heard from the CSR that you did a really good job handling this. And dude, that's what I'm looking for.
Yep.
And now that guy's like, oh dang, boss man noticed me.
Yep.
And that is way more meaningful than boss man bought me a burrito.
Yep.
Because there's like value tied to it. It's like that Christmas card, but even better.
Yep. So last time we filmed this podcast, I'm still figuring this company culture thing out. But I say I have a pretty good idea of like what's needed as of now. I told you, and I still stand to this. Culture is how people treat each other, and you get what you tolerate. So that's easy to think of on the negative end. Like, okay, if a guy's coming to work and yelling at your other employees, and you tolerate that, then you're going to get more of yelling at other employees, and the effects of that has on your culture. On the flip side, if you tolerate like nobody saying thank you,
right?
Like there's a positive end to it as well. Like you need to not tolerate people. Like you need to encourage people to say thank you, or encourage buy-in from your employees, or encourage people listening to your employees. Those kinds of things. So it's a double-edged thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You want to tolerate. Well, let's see. Yeah, you don't want to tolerate bad behavior, and you want to encourage good behavior. You want to reward good behavior.
You don't even have to reward it. You just don't want to tolerate it not happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah,
that's the better way for me to think about it.
Yeah.
So if there's not good behavior happening, you don't want to tolerate that. You want to make sure, okay, how can we make this more positive? Like, how can we actively go about affecting positivity in our company culture?
Yeah.
And not tolerate not doing that stuff.
Yeah. Would you say that increasing positivity in company culture is a good thing?
Yeah.
And then like thinking about how to do that intentionally is worth the time spent in doing that?
Yes. I think so. After talking to a bunch of my employees and my guys, I've been talking to them about culture and, the morale of the company and trying to really like nail it down on what it is. All of them have different ideas of what needs to happen or why things are the way they are. But the reality of it is that all of them just want to be heard and appreciated. Like at the core of all of the calls that I've had, it's just they want to feel heard and appreciated. And that's it. And listened to. That's it. And thanked. That's it. It doesn't even matter if you do any of the stuff they're talking about.
Right.
They just want to know that you're listening and that you appreciate their input. That's it. So it's not even hard. Like, it's not hard to offer that positivity.
You just have to make time for it and then learn the patience to learn the patience with being okay with like hearing what somebody has to say about your company. And even better yet, if you can have the humility to just be like, tell me what you think.
Yeah.
And they tell you all the good things and all the bad things, and you sit there and you're like, oh, thanks, really appreciate all that.
Yeah. And even if you don't do anything with it, you're better off.
Yeah.
Now, wise thing would be to like listen to your employees and think about what they have to say. And because maybe you really do have a problem.
Sure.
Right. So really think about it. Like, okay, it's really easy. Like I remember when I was in the company, it was really easy for the guys would come to me and they would complain about things or talk about something. And it would make me feel like, oh crap, this whole thing is going down. Homeboy thinks this way.
Right.
When in reality, there wasn't a problem. He just needed to like vent on me and me to listen to him. Yeah. Right. So it's really easy to go the opposite, but also it would be bad if you didn't think about it and go, okay, they obviously like they feel this way. So there's obviously some legitimacy to the fact that they feel that way. Is it really that there's like a problem in the company, or is this just normal feelings for a guy that comes to work?
Yeah, sure. And that's just going to take you taking the time knowing that guy and having enough of those conversations that you're like, oh, this is just, the thing. He likes to harp on this one thing. And
yes,
that's okay. And sometimes with those guys, it's just navigating those, because I've worked with guys like that where they're constantly telling me that this is still wrong. And I'm constantly being like, hey man, I get it, but like, what have you done to even fix this issue? Like you're complaining about it. It's in your space. I want to see you do something with this.
Yep. Okay. So 2 things. When it comes to retaining employees, if you have a crappy company culture, it's going to be really tough to retain employees because they're going to come in, they're going to be unhappy, and they're going to split.
Yeah, because really, like, you want employees who maybe are happy, maybe are, you don't want them to be at least content, right? Because happiness is such a random thing.
It is.
But you want them to not hate being there.
Yeah.
Because like you can pay somebody a lot of money, but if they hate being there, they're probably going to go make less money somewhere else that they would actually want to be.
Yeah. And so, yeah, very true.
Yeah.
I think if you can nail the company culture, you get the exact opposite. You can get people, you can retain people without having to pay them tons more or give them a ton of these free burritos or chips in the thing or extra benefits, right? Because they just genuinely will enjoy coming to work and being around the people they're around, right? So in the sense of you get the culture that you tolerate or you get what you tolerate, you really have to be careful not to tolerate crappy employees, bad attitudes, people who are going to come in and just ruin it for everybody else, right? You have to get rid of those people.
And the tempting thing is to hold on to the guys who are performing really well, who are those quote unquote bad apples, but
they're dickheads.
Yeah, exactly. But but you tolerate them because you're like, well, their numbers are good, they sell well, or they're you know, they've been here really long. Whatever the excuse may be, at the end of the day, it's still an excuse.
Yes. And if you really cared about everybody and the big picture and the company and all your other employees, you would not tolerate that attitude. You would, and it's not even that you're just like, you have a bad attitude, out of here.
Right.
It's really like, hey, you have a bad attitude. If you want to stay here, you can't do that.
Right.
So the choice is yours. You can choose to come to work and have a good attitude and we can all get along, or you can choose the opposite. But if you choose the opposite, you can't work here.
Yep.
So it's not even that you're being a terrible person by just firing people because they're mean or whatever, right? You're really helping them out and giving them the choice to like change their ways, become a better person.
Yeah, really. And you can approach them like, hey, I want to help you on this, we could say, journey.
Totally.
I want to help you become less of a dickhead and more of a positive contribution to this environment. But if you don't want my help in doing that, and if you constantly push back and what I'm trying to do, then like, this isn't the place for you. Like, it's just not going to work here. I can't conform my culture around you and this company around you and your tendencies. Especially if, you know, they're not positive.
So that's that. It's very important, company culture.
Yeah. And when should you start thinking about company culture when you're building your business?
You know, I think you should think about it right away. Like, I think if I would have had a better understanding of what makes a good company culture, it would have made me a way more effective. Like, I would have put my company together better from the beginning.
Sure.
And that's always easy to say. Yeah.
Of course.
If I would have known this, I would have gone back and done this differently, of course. Because the other part of what you end up with is, you know, because it was built in a certain way, people have come to expect it to continue to operate that way.
Sure.
Just because they want it to be how it was when they first got there, right? But if you want to get better as a company, there has to be changes that get made, right?
Of course, yeah.
And so it can be uncomfortable for employees. So if you can build it right from the beginning, then you don't have that awkwardness. Now, in hindsight, and what we're actually going to go add into all of our employee agreements is not only are we going to put in culture expectations in our employee agreements, so they're like right when they get hired, they're faced with, this is how we treat everybody at our company. And we're going to boil it down to, like, on each individual job position is going to be, this is how you treat other technicians. This is how we expect you to treat the CSRs. This is how we expect you to treat the manager. This is how we expect you to treat the owner. And in turn, we're going to treat you this way. Anything outside of this, we don't tolerate here.
Right.
That way it's right up front. They know exactly what it is that we expect. And then we're also going to add into the employee agreement of, this employee agreement is going to change.
Right.
Expect it to change.
Right.
Because we are a growing, evolving company in a growing, evolving marketplace.
Right.
And we have to change things every now and then to continue to be a thriving, profitable business so that we can continue to employ excellent technicians or excellent CSRs or excellent managers like yourself. So expect this to change. When it does, we'll rewrite this agreement and we'll go over it.
And that's cool because you're communicating to your employees like, I will let you know when it changes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be very upfront and like changes, you won't show up to work one day and it be totally flipped on you.
Yeah. Things that worked at 1 to 2 million don't necessarily work the same at 4 to 5 million.
Yeah. Yes.
And things have to change.
Right.
And so if you can be upfront with your employees about that, huge.
Yeah.
You should write an employee agreement to begin with. I think we're going to cover that in here, actually.
Yeah.
So that's employee retention framework, like part 1. It's just culture, right?
Sure.
Basically, treat your people well and expect them to treat other people well, and then don't put up with anything else. If I could narrow it down to like the easiest thing, that's what I would narrow it down to.
When I was at Right Air Service, whenever I trained new guys, I was like, hey, I got 3 rules for you.
Yeah.
First one is don't die.
Yeah.
Like, because you can get killed doing airplane stuff. And I was like, don't break planes.
Okay.
And then I was like, don't be an ass. I was like, hey, man, if you do those 3 things, you'll do pretty well around here. Obviously, super vague, and like you could go into all those.
Yeah.
But it's like, if people are like safe and conscientious and they don't do stupid stuff and they're not mean, cool. That's a good start.
I would tell everybody, show up every day, do what I tell you to do, and make me look good. That's what I would tell like when I was a foreman on a big job.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell them.
Yeah.
I was like, your job is to make me look good.
Yeah. Okay? So chip, chop, chip. Don't mess that up. How'd they respond to that?
Everybody got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was on a job and I had some guys showing up late and I tolerated it for a little bit. And that's when I learned like, dang, you got to like really tell these guys up front.
Oh yeah.
We don't tolerate this. You
Especially with late, man. People will just suddenly find like, I can just show up after all the work's done.
Every day
For eternity. Yeah. And
then you're going to have a conversation and they're like, what do you mean? I've been showing up late for like 3 months and you haven't said a word. And now you want me to show up on time?
Yep. Or like, that one guy, like some other guy shows up late and that just straw that breaks the camel's back and you're like, all right, no more late. And then like, that guy's like, these guys have been being late the whole time and you're yelling at me? Like, well, you're the first person I saw,
Yeah. I don't like late employees. Okay. Employee retention.
I've never been late, thank God.
Framework part 2. Okay. Performance pay. What it boils down to is, and this is kind of a confusing one. We had some people in our Facebook group a little confused on performance pay. So we'll try and flush it out here. By the way, if you want to grow your plumbing business, go join our Facebook group. It's the Wealthy Plumber. Is that what it's called?
I think so. I know. I never actually look at the name.
It's the Wealthy
URL.
Plumber. I'm pretty sure if you go to groups and search the Wealthy Plumber, you'll find our Facebook group. You can join it. It's free. We'll help you out. We'll help you grow your business. We're in there all the time, commenting, giving away free stuff. Performance pay. It's basically like, rather than just paying you an hourly wage and expecting you to perform, instead I'm going to say, based on how well you perform, how well you perform dictates how well you get paid, right?
Yep.
So there's two main ways that people do this in the plumbing world, and the most basic of them, you can do straight commission. So it's like, this guy billed out $10,000 in revenue, so he gets paid X amount based on a percentage commission, right? Typically, it's like 15 to 20% if you're going to do straight commission, okay? And then you do base pay.
Real quick, how do you determine how much to pay in that commission? Like, how do you do 15, 16, 17, 20?
We'll go over that after we discuss base pay plus commission. Base pay plus commission. That's tough to say.
Yeah.
Whew.
Dang.
That's like you give them a base pay and then you give them a commission on sales, right? So if you're going to do straight commission, actually either of these, let's cover this. If you're going to do base pay plus commission, I would prefer, if you can, a lower base pay with a higher commission.
Sure.
Okay? Because when people come into your company and they go to work and they don't perform, you want them to not make enough money.
Yeah, sure.
So that
on their base pay, you mean?
Yeah, so that they just won't continue to work there, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I understand.
Then you're not having to watch them and fire them. It's just much easier if they're like, I'm not making enough money here. And you're like, you're not.
True.
You should probably go work somewhere else. At the same time, on either of these payment plans, you want them to be able to make enough money, right? Without costing your company too much money.
Yeah,
okay?
sure.
So the better they perform, the more they get paid. So an easy way to think about how much somebody's going to get paid, and it boils down to your P&L, and we'll talk more about that if we get to it in this podcast. We may not, but it's in the playbook. On your P&L, you have
Your profit and loss.
You have your gross income or your total sales or whatever.
Yep.
Everybody calls it something different, but it's basically how much money you brought in. Okay, at the very top of your P&L. Underneath that, you should have your COGS. So your cost of goods sold. And I've communicated this so many times, and I got a really good way to explain it, and I'm excited.
Dang.
If I was to sell you this cup, cost of goods sold, let's put it this way. Cost of goods sold is the stuff you had to purchase to resell it to the customer. Okay. So if I was buying,
What about that spoon?
yeah, bad example. If I was buying mass amounts of coffee mugs, okay, from China and then reselling them in the US, the cost of these cups and the shipping associated
Sure.
with getting it here and the packaging and the cost to ship it to you, that would be my cost of the good that I sold to you.
Right.
Because I sold you the cup with all the packaging and the shipping,
Right.
right?
Yep.
In the world of plumbing business or plumbing service business, what you are buying materials and you are buying skilled labor and you are packaging that up in your company and you're reselling it to the customer.
Right. Gotcha.
So
Okay,
your
gotcha.
cost of goods sold is the materials and the technician labor that it took to fulfill on that project or that toilet or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So in a typical plumbing company, what you want to see is where your COGS are, you want to see materials, and then you want to see technician labor,
Yep.
the employer taxes associated with that labor.
Yep.
So the taxes that you as the employer have to cover out of your pocket, there's a certain percentage. And that changes depending on what state you're in. Everybody pays half of federal. So federal taxes are 15.3. Every employer is responsible for 7.1 something. 7.6 something. That's what it is. We got to quit doing math again, dude.
Well, we're always going to do this. Is mostly a math podcast, I'm realizing.
It is. So out of that, it's materials, the labor, the taxes associated with the labor, the commission associated with the labor.
Okay. All right.
Any other benefits associated with that labor. Okay. So any healthcare,
Okay.
anything that you give to that labor. Okay.
The CSR wouldn't fall under that category?
No, CSR is overhead.
Okay.
Anybody in the
Gotcha.
office is overhead.
Okay.
And this is how we run into things all the time where guys got way too much overhead. If they just organize their P&L right, they would see it.
Yeah, because again, we're talking that there is an ideal spread within the service plumbing business model that you want to see on your P&L between your COGS and your overhead.
So what you do is you take your total sales minus your COGS equals your gross profit margin.
Okay.
Typical gross profit margin for a plumbing service business is around 50%.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's usually 25% materials, 25% labor.
And again, is that just found because there's just you look at a bunch of profitable plumbing businesses and you're like, this is what it looks like. Is that how that? Okay.
Yeah.
It's just
because the overhead is set.
Yeah, sure.
You can't change. It's you can. The whole game of having a successful plumbing business is getting the overhead down to the absolute minimum and buying materials at the best deal you can and buying skilled labor at the best deal you can and then reselling that to the customer at a price that leaves a profit margin, right? But where most people make the mistake is you can only get the overhead so low.
Yeah.
You can't cut overhead to a point where you're charging less than $400 an hour. You just can't do it. It just costs so much to run a service company.
Yeah.
And then lately, you can't buy materials super cheap.
Sure,
and
yeah.
You can't buy skilled labor very cheap either. And there's a shortage of skilled labor. So you actually have to be willing to overpay, right? Because there's so much market demand over here and so few technicians that if you want to fulfill the demand, you have to overpay the technician to be able to have them in your business so that you can fulfill the demand. So you can't play this game of like carving overhead, like carving unnecessary things out of your overhead.
Sure.
Sorry, carving necessary things out of your overhead. You should absolutely carve unnecessary things out of your overhead, right? You should be running as lean and as mean as possible. But not to a fault.
Not carving out necessary things.
You shouldn't be trying to cut marketing so that you can't get any more customers. That would be dumb.
Yes.
Instead, you should pay for the marketing and raise your prices to cover the marketing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes. And when you don't view your pricing as a system, then you don't even, that's not even like, I've talked to tons of guys where it's like, they'll talk about like, well, I needed to scale back on these things so that I could make money.
Yeah.
But they never consider, if I raise my prices, I could also make money that way. Like it's just a static number that just exists and they haven't touched it for decades.
Yeah. And then there's like a cap to how much they can charge.
And they're fiddling with all the other things in their business, marketing included, to try to make money, not realizing that, dude, there's this huge lever that you're allowed to manipulate.
Yeah.
You're actually encouraged to manipulate this lever because if you ever fill up gas in your vehicle, that price is manipulated all the time.
All the time.
Because the people who are selling gas at that gas station are like, things are changing today in the market, so we're going to change prices.
It's literally like, it costs more to produce this gas.
Yep.
So the producers have to sell it to the distributors at a higher cost.
Yep.
For the distributor to continue to make money, he has to sell that gas to the gas station at a higher cost.
Yep.
And then the gas station has to sell it to you at a higher cost so that everybody along the way makes money. It's the exact same thing with your plumbing business.
Yep. And the difference between you and a gas company is that gas company is hyper aware of how much changing that gas price means to their bottom line.
That gas company is not trying to cut technician wages. They're not trying, or drivers' wages. They're not trying to operate off old used vehicles. They're not trying to cut necessary expenses. Right. They're running as lean as they can with all the necessary expenses, and they price themselves to produce a profit.
And they go, dang, it's more expensive on Tuesday than it was on, last Tuesday. Let's raise the prices 7 cents because that's what the math says will hit our profit margins.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do with your business. Okay.
We're on our P&L.
So, P&L. You know your 25% labor and 25% materials on your COGS.
Okay.
So,
okay.
You never want your labor
Got it.
costs to go over 25%. Because if they do, you don't hit 50% in your gross margins, right? And if you don't hit 50% gross margins, you will not hit what you want for net margins, okay? So it's typically 50% gross, 30% overhead, 20% profit, depending on, and those are like rough numbers. They're not exact, right?
Sure.
So knowing that your labor needs to be under 25%. If you were going to pay a commission over 25%, what does that do?
It's going to increase.
It's going to ruin your gross margin.
Yeah.
Which means you're going to have less at your net, which means you're not going to be as profitable.
Right.
So that's why I say don't go over 20%. So if you're going to pay commission, like to your employees, if you went at like 19%, that gives you a 6% buffer, right? You also have to think about in there, they're going to bill out, like you're going to pay them commission on the materials they bill out as well, right?
Interesting.
So you're not only going to be paying commission on the labor, but also the materials.
Yeah.
And you have to think about that when you're thinking about the percentage that you're taking up of your total revenue, okay?
Yeah. So then how does that work when you're thinking about it in that way? Like, how do you know that, like, okay, this percentage of the commission goes towards materials, this percentage goes towards labor?
So that's why it's really easy when you do straight commission. It's like, okay, 20%. If they bill out 500,000, I'm going to pay them 20% of that. So if all I did was, if I had one technician, he billed out 500,000, I paid him 100,000. I'm at 20% for my labor cost of goods.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
If he doesn't get any other benefits,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, sure.
So now I know I'm within my 25. So I'm good. When I messed up saying you need to think about materials. What I meant is you need to think about, man, my brain's a mess. You need to think about the other costs associated with this labor.
Yeah.
Like,
okay. Not the materials.
No. So if you put them at 19% commission, let's say, you still have to pay taxes.
Yep.
Your employer taxes on that commission.
Yep.
There might be other benefits that you still need to pay. Like you might provide them with health care.
Right.
That needs to go up into your COGS, right?
Yeah.
So you have to leave room in there for that.
Yeah. So if you just go, I'm gonna pay 25% commission, and it's just gonna work out. What's gonna happen is
You're gonna be over.
yeah, because you have all these benefits associated.
Yeah. I mean, just the taxes.
Yeah, just the taxes, not even the
gonna put you
bennies.
over.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Because you're gonna pay 10% taxes.
Yeah. So and it's just using your P&L effectively seems like a really important tool because it tells you where
But it has to be laid out right. And so
yeah, sure.
you have to tell your bookkeeper to lay it out that way.
Yeah.
Because they don't know.
Man,
they don't know what your COGS are.
You should make a spreadsheet that's just like, tell your bookkeeper to lay it out this way.
Yes. Well, I mean, yeah. Like if you download my hourly rate calculator, which you can grab a copy for free in the description of this video, all you got to do is give us your email. We'll email it to you. On the second page, if you want help with your plumbing business, you can sign up for a call for coaching, and we'll have a call with you guys. And we try to provide as much value on those calls, regardless if you buy coaching or not, to help you out.
Yep.
But in that calculator, like there's an expense worksheet where you go enter in all your expenses. If all you did was give that to your bookkeeper and say, hey, I want my P&L laid out like this. I want these categories in my P&L. And I want my COGS up top are my technician labor and everything associated with it and my materials that I buy for the jobs. That would be a good P&L layout because then you could get your P&L from your bookkeeper. You could pull up your calculator and just enter in all the data and make sure that you have all of your expenses that are on your P&L in your calculator to make sure that you're charging enough to cover your expenses and make a profit.
In your hourly rate calculator, the one that you're using currently in your business, how certain of you that you're accounting for all of your expenses?
So you can never be totally certain, right? There's things that happen. There's things that I'm never certain.
Sure.
So I always look at it. Like I look at, okay, what did we actually spend in expenses last year?
Right.
And what do I have in my calculator for expenses? And honestly, we always hedge our bets in our favor.
Of course.
So everything we enter, we're like, okay, if it's $2,675 that I'm spending on this thing, I'm going to enter it as $2,800.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
When I get my hourly rate at the bottom, my minimum hourly rate, and it says, I don't know, $424, I'm going to charge $444.
Right.
Just because I want to hedge the bets in my favor.
Right.
Because you have to have room for error.
Yeah, of course.
Things like just the fact that you're running this hourly calculator, right? And we adjust for efficiency at the top on the first page. What if you don't hit that efficiency?
Sure.
What happens? You lose money.
Yep.
As a business, you cannot lose money.
Yeah.
If you run out of cash, you're out of business.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
So you have to hedge the bets in your favor.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's how I pay my guys.
Out of those, though, what would you prefer in a perfect world?
Man, so right now we do a bunch of weirdness in my company. Just because it's confusing. We're going to switch to a hourly plus. We're going to do a base plus commission is what we're going to switch to. I have to do that because my guys are union. We're a union shop because we live in a union town, and all the good plumbers are union.
Right.
So I literally wouldn't be able to get guys if we weren't union.
Right.
That has its benefits and it has its downsides.
Yeah.
One of the downsides is I can't pay straight commission.
Sure.
I think if I were to do it somewhere else, I would pay straight commission, and I would make it. I'd probably have 3 tiers to my commission. I would have like 90-day like probationary period where you come in and you get our base commission. And then once you go through all of our training and onboarding processes, then you bump up to tier 1, right? tier 1 would be like entry level technician or apprentice or somebody, and his commission would be lower.
Yeah.
And then once you've proven yourself to be a, good fit for the company.
Yeah. Okay.
You're hitting certain revenue goals.
Yeah, sure.
And you're able to hit certain benchmarks, and maybe even tie it to additional training. Then I would bump you up to like tier 2, which would be like my full. I'd probably go with like 19-20% commission.
Because what you're protecting from is a guy who comes into your company making full commission.
Yeah.
And he makes enough money to be comfortable in his own life, but he kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like he's not like a great fit for your company.
Yeah.
You want him to really have to like work for it and then go, dang, I actually like working here. I'm going to try hard and express initiative, et cetera, et cetera.
I want to incentivize them to do the training and put in the work to become the best technician they can be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, cool.
Rather than being comfortable down at the bottom, not having done the training to become a better technician.
And it's so nice, like having a structure of, oh, that's how I can make more money. I just have to do X, Y, and Z and prove myself in this way. Cool. I can make more money in 90 days.
Yeah. And then once you know your commission is 19, 20%, whatever you land on, then your technicians are always like, hey, if I want to make more money, all I got to do is do more work. Yeah. So I need to become more efficient. I need to become better at offering the customer options. I need to become better at helping them pick good solutions. And those are the kinds of things you need to train your guys on. If what you don't want is guys coming in on commission, right? And this is the big worry of commission. Right. They're going to sell my customers things they don't need.
Sure.
And yes, they will if that's how you train them to do. But on the flip side, if you train them to only sell the customer what they need, and you train them how to be successful at your company with the commission that you have and what that looks like, that's the outcome you're going to get.
Right.
So it starts with the owner, right?
And that comes back to what you tolerate. Like if you
Yeah.
find out that homeboy is selling all the stuff that he shouldn't be selling that the customer doesn't really need, then you have to have a conversation to express that, like, hey, we don't tolerate that around here.
We don't tolerate that. That's bad character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In our Facebook group, like, what was a confusion about the pay scales?
They don't know like what commission to start with.
Like
Specifically
percentage-wise?
like what we just covered.
Okay, gotcha. They just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
They don't even know how to like figure out the answer.
No clue.
And again, like these things are not arbitrary. Like there's no like, hey man, it's always going to be 16% because that's just what it is. The going rate in our town, 16%. Like whenever you hear going rate for anything, just assume that nobody knows what they're talking about and figure out your own numbers.
Yeah, know your stuff.
Yeah, so it's going to be dependent upon your P&L and just all that thing that we just broke down.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I will say this. If you're a new business owner and your business hasn't been around very long and you need to get people to come work for you, I would pick whichever structure makes it easier for me to hire people.
Yeah.
So whatever the guys that want to come work for you, it's going to make them more comfortable. Even if it's not exactly what you want.
Sure, because you can change it.
Yeah, you can change it. And you're going to have a hard time, like you're a new business, it's hard to get people to come work for you. They're uncomfortable with the fact that you're new. And they like when they go work for somebody, what they want is they want to know they're going to have a consistent paycheck day in and day out, and they can show up to work, do their job, and get paid, right? When you're a new company, that's a fear that they have that this company hasn't been around that long. I don't know that I'm always going to be able to show up, work, and consistently get paid. So if you hit them with this weird thing they're not used to, right? Then that's just one more thing standing in their way. So you want to reduce that to the minimum by just pick one that they're comfortable with. Even if you've got guys on multiple ones, who cares? Just get them in the door, get them working, get them producing revenue for you, grow your business, and then switch it up.
Yeah, once you prove your concept and you can look at everybody and be like, hey, we're making money and everybody's been busy. Then you can go, okay, we're going to shift to this pay structure. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for me. It's good for the customer.
Yeah, hey, guy who's on hourly, like if I did the math, if we switched to commission, you would have made way more money last year.
Yeah, and he's going to be like, oh, dang.
Or guy who's on hourly, but you're kind of underproducing. Hey, we're switching to commission.
Yeah.
You're going to make less money if you don't do better. Like you really haven't been doing that good.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Get with it. Cool. That was long. important though.
Yeah, I love, like I said, I almost said last time, but that was one of the podcasts that didn't get recorded. But I always like when we talk about the P&L section because even this time, I understand it a little bit more. Because it's kind of a hard concept to grasp because in like, even the question I asked, like, well, your CSR doesn't contribute to the cost of goods sold.
No.
It's like, no, even though in your head you're like, well, kind of does, but not as far as your P&L is concerned.
Right. And most people don't look at their P&L. When they do look at their P&L, they don't know what the hell they're like, well, I don't know what this means.
Oh yeah. Also, guys, if you don't have a bookkeeper and you're making money, go get a bookkeeper right now. Just pause the podcast.
Yeah.
Do a Google search, find a bookkeeper, and just go hire them.
Go hire them and then have them organize your P&L, how we just talked about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to wait until you do that and you come back.
Pause.
Yeah.
We'll be back after this break.
Yeah.
What's our guy's name? Jamie?
Costin.
Jamie, pause it.
Yeah.
Bathroom break.
Yeah.
Okay. Next section in here, section 6, is attracting the best customer. I feel like I've hammered this one like a lot too lately.
Like in your reels or what? Or just with the coaching calls?
Yeah, with our coaching calls. I don't know, just everybody I talk to, it seems like.
Yeah, it could be like
and the TikToks.
The TikToks.
I talk so much now that I feel like I repeat myself a lot.
That's okay.
I know, but I got to remember, like, nobody watches every single thing I do,
right?
And so I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot,
right?
But it's good because I have over the last year, I'll say. My knowledge of all of this stuff has gotten so much deeper. And it has helped me run a better plumbing business.
Yeah, sure.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
It's fun. I like it. This is the stuff I love. I love the business side of stuff. It's cool. I hate plumbing.
Oh, come on.
Which is kind of ironic. Everything I do is about plumbing.
Yep.
And I love it, but I hate plumbing. I do not want to touch any plumbing. Ever.
Yeah, well,
we were thinking we were going to change the podcast up to, we were going to go do free plumbing and talk about plumbing business.
Which means I was going to do plumbing and Jared was going to yell at me.
Yeah, because I'm not doing it.
Yeah, he's not doing it. And then we're going to try to talk about this stuff at the same time.
Dude, I think that'd be tough.
I think it'd be super hard. And then my wife said, I got work that needs to be done.
And then we scratched that idea.
Yeah, we said, never mind, I'm
Never
good.
mind.
I said, Jared, I don't want to buy a new bathtub right now.
We just go replace your brand new bathtub.
Yeah, that's what she wants. She's like, give me a soaking tub. I want a new sink. And
you don't have room for that. Just go pull out your tape measure and take some measurements. Be like,
sorry, babe, not enough room.
It's not going to fit.
Yeah, she's smart, though. She'll be like, you didn't even use that tape measure right.
So Jared, I talked to Jared. He said it won't fit.
Yeah, she'll be like, let me talk to Jared. And I'll be like, nah, he's unreachable. He's on a podcast now.
You're over there texting me.
Yeah. Turn your phone off.
Hey, tell her it won't fit, okay?
Yeah, these are the measurements.
Okay. Attracting the right kind of customers.
That was for Costin?
You're supposed to clap with me.
Oh, sorry.
It's like your prayer at your church.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, attracting the right customers. Like, the funny part about this is that I always knew you could attract the right kind of customer, but I didn't understand to the extent at which if you don't attract the right kind of customer, you're 100% attracting the wrong kind of customer.
Sure.
And it makes it really hard to do business in a way where you can actually be profitable. Okay. So in order to run your business, if you go look at your expenses and you think about expenses that maybe you don't have that you should have, like marketing, those kinds of things, vehicle payments, owner pay, profit margins.
Right.
You start to understand it's really expensive to run your plumbing business. Like, it's just how it is, right? Yep. And so in order to cover the costs and make a profit margin, you have to charge the customer a lot. There's two types of customers. There's one that you can charge a lot and they don't mind paying you that because they appreciate your service. And then there's customer number 2 who doesn't want to pay that much for plumbing. They think that people who are charging that much are just ripping people off.
Right.
You can't make money with those customers. Like, let the one truck chucks serve those customers.
And by that, like the one truck chucks who have old vehicles, they're not out there trying to build a real business.
Yes.
They just don't know yet.
Let the one truck Chucks have those customers.
Sure. Let the handyman have those customers.
And they can continue to think that all the big plumbing businesses are ripping people off, and that's okay.
Yeah.
When in reality, it's just bad for everybody. So customer number one, the one you can make money with, when they go on the internet and they're looking for a plumbing company, they are looking for lots of 5-star reviews. When they look at the reviews, if there's 1 stars, if they say these guys are expensive, they don't care. And then what they want to see is that they're taking care of their customers.
Yeah.
And they don't really care about the price. So they're looking for like a bigger, more well-established shop with nice, friendly-looking employees with lots of 5-star reviews, wrapped vans, and somebody who looks legit, right?
Now, when you say 5-star reviews, what platform is
Google My Business, 5-star reviews.
not Yelp?
I mean, in some places, your Yelp reviews are going to matter. But like what we found and what a lot of our clients find is that hands down, the most important spot is your Google My Business. That's the first place they're going to see you.
Yeah.
And in a lot of places, it's always the cheapo customers who use Yelp,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's
I've only
what we
heard
find.
probably one guy in all my conversations where he's like, Yelp's been really good for me.
Yeah, there are some spots around the U.S. where Yelp is actually pretty decent. It can be, yeah. So that's just a thing you have to work on.
Yeah.
Or figure out.
Yeah, and even what about even like Facebook reviews?
I would say those are important,
Okay.
right? If you're like getting low on your Facebook reviews, like in Service Titan, we can switch up whether we ask for a Google review or if we ask for a Facebook review.
Gotcha. Cool.
So if your Facebook reviews are getting low and you feel like it's affecting your business and your Google reviews are fine for the moment,
Sure.
go ask for some Facebook reviews.
Yeah. Cool.
It'll help you out. So customer number one, they want a legitimate company. They want somebody that they feel like they can call and they're going to get booked and they're going to get taken care of and they can trust that in that company. Okay? Customer number two is, well, back to that. They understand that company is going to be more expensive. And and they're willing to pay a more expensive price to have that company come work for them because they understand the experience is going to be better. The quality they feel like is going to be better. And they don't like calling the one truck Chucks because it's uncomfortable.
Sure.
And I'll give you an example of that after we talk about customer number two.
Okay.
So customer number two, on the flip side, they want a cheaper solution to their plumbing problem. And they look at those big shops and they're like, oh, they have inflated overhead and they're just charging people way too much to line the pocketbooks of, greedy CEOs. That's not the case at all, but that's how they feel, right? And so then they look at the smaller one truck Chuck, no wrapped vans, less overhead, and they know they're going to be cheaper and they feel like they're, more honest and hardworking and that's where they want to spend their money. Unfortunately for the one truck Chuck guys is they never make enough money to do anything except for one truck Chuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, most of the time it works out to where the owner is like working his balls off to run a business and he's barely making any money.
Yep.
So if any of the customers that are the customer number two are watching this, which I doubt it, but if you are, that's what you're supporting. Like you're supporting something that's really not that good.
Right.
For that company.
Yeah, you're trying to get a deal at the expense of somebody else's livelihood.
Yes. Yeah.
Whether they know it or not, whether you know it or not, that's actually the result that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And the guy who's serving customer number two, he's discounting his customers to screw himself and his employees over.
Yeah.
And he thinks that the way to make money is to be more efficient, right?
Yes. Get more leads even.
Get more lead, do more work, more scale, be more efficient.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. You can't be the Walmart of plumbing business, right?
Yes.
You don't have the scale there.
No.
It's impossible.
Yeah, you can't go find a bunch of people to do the work at a really, really cheap rate so that you can make money and have scale.
You're taking really expensive skilled labor and really expensive materials and a really expensive business to operate.
Yeah,
you're trying to operate it cheaper than you should. And there's no benefit to you.
Yeah, and like because I'll talk to guys and they'll be like, yeah, well, I got, word of mouth keeps me super busy and it's been good to me. I can sell all my jobs, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I usually follow up with like, yeah, man, but like what they're saying about you is they're saying that like, hey, Jared's plumbing business is super awesome because it's cheap.
Yeah.
Even though you might think to yourself, they love me because I do a great job, which you probably do.
There's some of those customers. That's the sad part about these businesses is that not all of their customers are saying, I'm using them because they're cheap. Right? So if they were to go raise their rates, they would keep quite a few of their customers just because they enjoy your service.
Yeah, sure.
And they would enjoy paying you more for it.
Actually, we probably see that in
all the time
with our people in our coaching program because they'll go and raise their rates and they're super scared about it, but then they come back and they're like, actually, things are good and I didn't lose all my customers.
Every single time they come back and they go, people just buy it anyway.
Yeah, they're just happy that I'm there.
The same people who are pissed at $150 are still pissed at $400 or $450 or whatever you got to charge.
Yeah.
But the people who are happy to just pay it, they're still happy to just pay it.
Yeah.
And now I just make money. And I'm not freaking out. And I can actually like take time to serve my customers.
Yeah.
And this is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Big difference. That's just one change. That's just one thing you can do to make your plumbing business better. There's a whole host of other things to make it even better. Imagine like, take this scenario, like somebody who's got a really strong word of mouth. That's great. Now imagine if you spent money on advertising and you got 100 new customers and those 100 customers gave you word of mouth referrals as well. Now you've just like, when you work the two together, it's a unstoppable machine. It's a snowball that keeps snowballing.
Yeah. It's a lead getting machine.
Yeah. It is. It really is. Customer number 2, you cannot make money on. Okay. True story.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
I love me a good true story, Jared.
So this is what I like. I honestly, I had a hard time understanding this for a long time because I didn't ever go buy things like service. Like,
yeah, sure.
If I needed a fence built or I needed my electrical for my house to the meter changed or I needed my plumbing repaired, I fixed it. I did it myself, right? Because I didn't have the money to hire somebody.
Right.
And I was capable of doing it myself. And that's how I grew up. We do things ourselves. We don't pay for them. We do them ourselves. And I feel like that's how a lot of plumbers are. They come up in the trades.
Right.
They're used to doing the work themselves. To them, it's no big deal. And what they don't understand is what it looks like on the consumer's end when you're the kind of guy that's coming in and serving customer number 2, right?
Yeah.
So we bought another house in this neighborhood, and there's 2 brand new houses, and the neighbor wanted to put up a fence, and so they hired a fence guy. And the fence guy came to us and he goes, hey, I'm putting up your neighbor's fence and, a quarter of his fence is on your property. If you want to put up your fence at the same time, then I'll split the cost of the neighboring fence between both of you, saving you a little bit of money on your fence. Good tactic on his part, which is cool. Because then if we say yes, he just goes to the next neighbor.
Yeah, he's like,
If
hey,
they say
everybody.
yes, he goes to the next neighbor. And usually I'll see his sign on like 5 houses in a row.
Yeah, because everyone's like, yeah, cool.
So
then the neighbor is like, come on, man. Like, come on.
good tactic, right? So he calls us on the phone and has this conversation with us. And so my wife had the phone call and she's like, oh yeah, that's great. And he goes, cool. I'll stop by and get measurements. I'll call you when I'm going to stop by and we'll get measurements and I'll get you a quote. Like 2 weeks go by and we haven't heard from this guy, right?
Dang.
Finally, he calls just randomly. Hey, I'm going to be there in like 15 minutes.
And you're like, did you even know who he was? Like,
didn't even know who he was. Don't even know the guy's name at this point.
Sure.
So
do you know what company he works for?
It's Al. I don't know if I want to say it, but
well, I mean, like you don't have to. But
we
just
know the
like,
company
okay,
name.
so he's okay. You know that much.
Yes. And so my wife rushes over there. I was probably doing a podcast or something.
You always are doing podcasts when your wife's trying to do important stuff.
Always, dude. Jeez. So she rushes over there. She meets the guy. He's got this old jankety truck. He's super dirty. He whips out, measures the fence. She said he was a nice guy.
Sure.
And then he says, yeah, I'll write you up an estimate. 4 weeks goes by. 4 weeks.
Whoa.
Finally, she like is texting him like, hey, how's that estimate coming along, right? Because she wants the fence up.
Yeah, sure.
And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm working on it. And then like a week later, he texts her at so many feet at price per foot, cost for fence equals this dollar amount. I want to say it's like $7,500.
Yeah.
Way too cheap. And then he goes, what does he say after that? Cash price, $500 discount. And my wife's like, I waited like a month and a half for this.
For a text message of a multiplication formula.
Yeah. So my wife, being the daughter of her parents, she's like, I'll give you the cash price and save $500.
Yeah.
And so she says, cool, I'll give you the cash price. And he goes, okay, I need 50% down to get materials and get started. And my wife's like, man, I don't know if I trust giving this guy, $3,500 or $3,250 cash.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know if he's a legit company.
Yeah, with no verification or anything.
Nothing.
And also this crazy time lapse in between
Crazy time lapse.
Time of first contact to time of quote delivery to when is this fence going to be put up in the next 3 years?
Yeah, so she's like thinking about it, and the guy calls her and he's like, hey, this is Donald. And she's like, who's Donald? Like, he doesn't even say, hey, this is Donald with so-and-so fence company.
Yeah.
Just calling to check in on your estimate. It's just funny, right? So this guy, probably a really nice guy, has a fence company, trying to make it in the world, but it's his appearance and the way he presents himself that is causing the customer to second guess.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
His abilities to take our money and go put up a good quality fence and get us taken care of. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, if you would have ran that fence company how we would want to run our plumbing business, right? Mm-hmm. Where they called and said, hey, we're putting up your neighbor's fence. You can get a discount because we can split the cost of the neighboring fence. Mm-hmm. Is that something you guys would be interested in? My wife would have said, yeah. And if they would have said, great, we just need to come by and measure the fence so that we can give you a quote. Let's schedule a time for us to come out there and measure the fence. Mm-hmm. When's a good day for you? What's a good time for you? Mm-hmm. Cool. We'll text you when we're on our way. Mm-hmm. And then send them a Google Calendar invite. Right. And my wife would have had it on her calendar. Mm-hmm. She would have gone over there at the scheduled time. They could have measured the fence with a wheelie reel, showed up in a nice polo and a branded vehicle, whipped out an iPad and clicked some buttons and said, so many feet of this fence at a 50% discount, plus the rest of the fence that doesn't neighbor your neighbors.
Right.
It costs this much per foot. What do you think?
Yep.
They could have quoted her $12,000, double what this guy quoted. Mm-hmm. My wife has said, yeah, let's do it. And she would have signed it right there. Mm-hmm. And they could have gone, cool, we just need to collect 50% down. We can do that today, and then we can be back tomorrow or the next day or 3 days out or whatever, and we'll get the fence put in. Mm-hmm. My wife would have been like, awesome, here's my credit card.
Yeah, they would have seen this nice wrapped truck with a trailer, whatever they got going. She would have connected that to the nicely wrapped guy with the logoed hat and the logoed polo and be like, cool.
And the iPad.
And the iPad.
Where the prices are set. Yeah. It's not a guesswork. It's not random.
All those things are building certainty in your wife's mind saying, I'm not giving my money to a scam artist.
Yeah, I'm dealing with a professional.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're going to get this taken care of.
And the fence is probably going to be awesome. And if there's something wrong with it,
they're going to take care of it. And they're going to take care of it.
Yeah.
Yep. And she would have gladly given them $6,000 up front, and then gladly given them another $6,000 after the fence was done.
Yeah.
So, and that's the choice you have with your plumbing business. Mm-hmm. Same thing. If you operate, that was weird. If you operate the other way, right? You're creating friction in the customer's mind hiring you to do a job.
Yeah.
And because you're creating that friction, they're not willing to pay you as much. So think about it. In the two instances, my wife is nervous about giving this guy $3,000 down to get the fence going. But in the other instance, she would have been more than happy to give them $6,000 down and $6,000 after the fence was installed, right?
Yeah, this is a good, like, the other lesson in here is that this isn't even a sales conversation, and yet we're talking about a sales moment.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
so everything in your business is going to contribute to other parts of your business.
Yeah.
Like, you might hire awesome sales trainers and you might be the best salesman ever, but you're going to lose deals because you're not presenting yourself and your company in a professional way.
Correct.
And so, like, all these things are important to have in place to actually achieve this desired outcome of building a successful business. It's like when I talk to guys and I'm like, okay, so you want to, like, you want to come into our course and you're going to charge more and you got to get marketing going. And I'm like, so you got, like, what kind of vehicles you driving? Oh, I'm driving old trucks with no wraps and no logo. I'm like, it's going to be harder for you.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately, it's going to be harder for you to go out there and say, here's my flat rate pricing, because you just don't look the part.
Yeah.
And so there's things that you're going to have to do to be able to jump in there.
Yep.
On the other hand, I had a conversation with a guy today who's like, I'm starting my plumbing company in 2 months. I'm already talking to marketing companies. I'm getting my brand done. I'm about to buy a new van and I'm going to get it wrapped.
Yep.
Like, he's got capital to do all these up front, but I'm
Yep.
like, dude, you're going to crush.
Yeah.
Because you're going to look exactly like every other giant company out there, and you're going to be able to sell at that rate.
Okay. Think about this as well. Like, the guy who showed up with no branding, no nothing. There's a gazillion of them.
Yeah.
We could have called a gazillion of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guy who showed up with good branding to come put in the fence, he doesn't exist.
No, not
I
here.
haven't seen him.
No, he does not exist.
So if you become that guy, you are all of a sudden in a market all by yourself.
Yeah.
You are no longer competing with everybody else.
Yeah,
Because
sure. Yeah,
everybody else is running their business on a race to the bottom, barely scraping by.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can go stand out and do something different and run your business well and profitable and have a good brand, all of a sudden, customers don't compare the two.
No, they don't, because it's completely two different things.
They can't compare you to all the one truck chucks because it's a different thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so everywhere in the United States, there's a ton of one truck chucks. Tons of them. So if you want to be unbranded, low-priced one truck chuck, I should clarify, not everybody is undercharging if they're a one truck chuck.
No, you can definitely be on the right path as a one truck chuck.
Yes, you can. But if you want to compete with all them on a race to the bottom, then do what they're doing. There's tons of them.
Yeah.
Like you'll have astronomical amounts of competition. But if you differentiate yourself out of that market and into a market with people who are well-branded, they're professional, they're more expensive, you have less competition. And you're competing not on price anymore. You're just competing on quality of service.
Yeah.
And that's something that you can work on always.
Yeah, and so I got a story that sort of aligns with this. Me and my wife, we were walking in the neighborhood yesterday, and there was some painters out painting the side of a house. I think they were probably just like, the new construction painters here, probably warranty work. But like, they're just in a white pickup truck. They're just scruffy, grungy looking dudes. And like, we walk by and like one kind of looks at us. We're like, hey, he's like, hey. And then we kept walking. I told my wife, I was like, imagine if they had a nice van wrap. Imagine if they had uniforms on. Imagine that when I walk by, they looked at me like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, oh, I'm going good. Like, hey, real quick, you got a second? Here, I got a flyer. We're doing some painting here. Here's a flyer for a discount on what we do as far as our services. Mention this flyer, man, and I'll hook you up with that discount. Like, we're going to be in the neighborhood for another 3 weeks because we got 4 or 5 houses that we're already doing. My wife probably would have found some paint job that needed done. Because she would have been like, they're here. But the fact of the matter is they were just in a white truck, scruffy looking, grungy looking, not very friendly. And I don't know what they were doing. And like if they would have just done, if they wouldn't have talked to me, but they would have had a nice wrapped vehicle or even a logo on their truck, I at least would have been like, oh, that's
a good painter.
That's like Flyboy's painting right there.
Yeah,
oh, cool.
Flyboy.
Yeah, Pensacola, Flyboy.
Yeah, dude. There's like for painters. Anybody who's doing new construction painting, dude, you could make so much more money just painting walls in homes that already exist. Or repainting.
Oh my gosh, because listen, just for a second, like this is a dogleg in the conversation, but like nobody likes painting.
No.
Like no homeowner is like, I can't wait to paint all this stuff.
No. Nobody.
And there's tons of opportunity.
Most people
there.
don't even know how to do it.
No. And like patching and all that kind of stuff.
So we have a friend. He makes a lot of money, and all he does is fix holes in walls.
Yep.
That's it. He was a painter, painted new construction for a lot of years, and now he runs a business, and all he does is fix. Somebody puts a hole in their wall. Yeah. He goes in, he patches it, and he repaints.
Yeah, it's like $600, and it's
and he's there for like 2 trips for 30 minutes.
Yep.
Right. Incredibly good at it.
Yep.
And he makes a killing doing it.
Yep.
Just because he switched what he was doing.
Yeah.
Like quadrupled the amount of money that he makes in a year.
And minimize the effort.
Yes, just by picking a better model, and then also picking a better customer.
Yeah, true.
Like rather than the new construction customer, he's got a customer that actually cares what their wall looks like and cares about
wants
the
paint to match. Yeah, and they want the texture and all that kind of stuff. And our friend's very personable, so he delivers good on that experience.
Yeah, and there's nobody else in the market that's willing to come fix a hole in the wall.
Because everybody would say, there's no way you can make money doing that.
Yeah.
And our buddy's like, oh, I beg to differ.
Yeah. Yep. Totally. Okay. Section 7, the diagnostic charge. This is a good one. So now that you know you got to be expensive,
hopefully,
and you know there's 2 types of customers, what do you do when customer number 2 calls you and they want to do business with you? And you go out to their house and you give them an estimate, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is retarded. You're screwing people over. And then they tell you to leave. It would be better if you could just avoid that whole thing in the first place.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So that's where the diagnostic charge comes in. So most people are running around giving free estimates, which isn't necessarily bad to give the estimate for free, but you should be charging that person a diagnostic charge to go to their house, diagnose what's wrong, and then give them, a estimate and a solution to their problem. So when you implement the diagnostic charge, it's literally we do $96. It could be $40. It could be $49. It could be $59. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The point is to say,
wait, what if it's like $250?
You could do that. It doesn't matter. You want it to be just enough to scare away the people who are going to call around for a price no matter what.
Yeah.
Or scare away the people who are just cheap, right?
Sure.
But not enough to scare away the people who aren't.
Yeah, you don't want to like surprise them with the sticker shock of like, whoa, that seems weird.
$250, does I show up?
Yeah. Even if you're going to waive it, like there's still this weird dialogue in the head that's like, that seems unusual.
Yeah. And there's companies who do that. And if you can get away with it, that's totally cool.
Yeah.
More power to you.
Yeah.
It's not really intended to make you money.
Yes.
It's really just kind of intended to scare away customers who aren't, they're either cheap or they're not super serious about getting their plumbing fixed, right? So if, like I say this all the time, how many, and I ask business owners this, I say, how many of your customers call you and it's a dire emergency? And it's always very few.
Right.
So the reality is these customers, they have these nagging plumbing problems for a long time. They don't want to call a plumber to get it fixed.
Sure.
But finally it's like bothering them enough and they have enough free time and headspace to actually like look up a plumber. Like this is uncomfortable for them to look up a plumber, to pick one, to call one. And if you're going to come out for free and diagnose this thing that has been there for months, maybe, right?
Right. Sure.
And you give them a price and it's more than they expected, they might be like, yeah, I've dealt with it for months. I'll just keep dealing with it.
Right.
But if you get it on the phone of like, hey, we have a $96 diagnostic fee, or we call it a charge. If we do any work today, we'll waive that charge. We got you down between 12 and 2. We'll see you then. If they're not serious about getting it fixed, $96 is kind of enough to be like, oh man, I don't want to call them out and have to pay them $96 just to maybe not get this fixed. Like if they're just trying to figure out how much it costs, right? That's going to stop them from doing that.
And this is all under the context that you're not giving an estimate over the phone.
Yes. Yeah, you do not want to give estimates over the phone. I always forget about this because seems like a long time ago.
Yeah, I actually forget to ask guys on the phone if they're still doing that. But
yeah, when you're running your service call, it needs to be, and we'll go over the call process next, I believe. But it's basically like customer calls you. If they ask you, hey, how much do you charge for this? Typically they're asking you that, not so much that they just want to know. Yeah, there are a few of those, but usually they're asking you that because they're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing they know to ask you.
Yep.
Right.
Everybody on any type of call where there's going to be money at some point in the conversation, when there's a lull, or if you say, you got any questions? The default question is, how much is it going to cost? Whether they wanted to ask that or not, it's the default go-to because nobody else knows what to say.
Never say, do you have any questions?
Never. Because it's going to be how much, it's always going to be, how much is it?
Yeah. So let's just go over that next because that's perfect like tie-in. Like Section 8 turning leads into book jobs. You get the call script that we use in my business in here. And it's basically like when somebody calls your business, say, hey, thanks for calling. I'm just going to use Joe's Plumbing because it's the one I use in here. Thanks for calling Joe's Plumbing. My name is so-and-so. And then they can be like, oh, hey, so-and-so. My name is whatever. How are you today? And you can be like, oh, I'm doing good. How are you doing? And you can start a little bit of a dialogue. And you say, so how's you calling today? Right? They can tell you what they got going on. And then you as a CSR or your CSR or somebody needs to take over the conversation at that point and be like, yeah, we can help you with that. Have we done work for you before?
Right.
And then it's a matter of they have to answer yes or no. And if they answer yes, it's like, cool, let me look you up in our system. Or cool, like if you don't have a system, I'm trying to think about that. Cool, let me get your name and phone number. Or awesome, thanks for calling again.
You kind of have to have a system.
You don't have to. Like if you don't have a system, if you're writing it on a notepad, just say, thanks for using us again. Let me get your name and phone number real quick.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
Grab their name, grab their phone number, grab their email address, and then be like, okay, so tell me a little bit more about your plumbing problem. Now you have their name, phone number, email address. If you have a system, that's super important because now you can email them. Now you can call them. Now you have their information. Always get their information. Super important. And now that you're in this part of the call, it's like, oh, cool. Tell me a little bit more about your problem.
Yeah, get their information before you ask for the problem.
Yes. Let them tell you about their problem. Sympathize with them about their problem. And then jump immediately to awesome. So good news is we have a time slot right here for you. We can get to you today during this time. Does that work for you? Find a day and a time that works for them. Get them on the schedule. And then just end the call with, great, I've got you on the schedule from on this day, between this time and this time. Our technician will text you when he's on the way. Just so you know, there is a $96 diagnostic charge. If we do any work that day, we will waive that charge. Thanks for calling Joe's Plumbing. Click.
Dude, that last part, that hang-up part is so key.
The hang-up part is the killer of it all. It doesn't work without the hang-up.
No, it doesn't, because if you don't just end the conversation there, they will maybe even like a large percentage of the time, they'll be like, actually, never mind. I just heard all that you just said, and I don't actually want this anymore.
I think you just leave room for them to do something, and the only things they know to do are to go, wait, $96, what's that about?
They're going to question that.
Or they're going to say, well, how much is this going to cost, right? So at the end, you want to leave it with, I've got you on the schedule, you're taken care of, here's how it's going to go down. Thanks for calling us. See you later. Click. And that's it. And you'll book a ton of jobs that way. And you'll go out and you'll give a ton of estimates, and you'll win a ton of work. And if you're priced right, you make a ton of money.
Dang. Wham, bam.
Wham, bam. It's that simple. It really is. That's the phone script. If you guys don't have this, what did we call this? The Plumbing Business Playbook?
The Magnum Opus.
Magnum Opus. It's called the Plumbing Business Playbook.
I know people are going to be like, where's the Magnum Opus? Be like, it's called the Playbook.
Yeah, it's called the Playbook. Link in the description down below. You can get it for free. All you got to do is give us your email. Again, if you want help with your business, you can book a call, see what we have to offer. Regardless, we'll get you we'll figure out like what your next, we'll really figure out what you're struggling with and try to get you pointed in the right direction. Either way. So don't hesitate. Okay. Number 9, scheduling for maximum profits. The scheduling is a dance.
It is a dance.
It's a dance, and it's a dance that can make or break your business. big time.
Well, and even in these last two things, we're assuming that you have a CSR. We didn't even touch on the idea that like, hey, you should get a CSR.
Yeah, if you're booking 1 to 2 calls a day, just get a CSR.
Yeah.
Because she's going to likely book better than you, especially if you give her this call script.
Yep.
And then she is going to free up so much of your brain space.
Yeah.
Like, you're no longer going to have to think about keeping track of customers, keeping track of scheduling. If you can't collect payment from a customer, now you can hand it off to your CSR. And then you can just focus on going and producing revenue.
Right.
If you're a business owner and you're in the office and you've got guys and you're still answering the phone, that's just dumb.
Super dumb.
Like, number one, you're probably terrible at it.
Yep.
Even though you think you're good at it.
Yeah. Like real quick, I've never had a business owner answer the phone. I was like, wow, that was really good. It's always just like rough.
Hello.
Yeah. Gravelly.
Yeah.
Like even if like the words are said correctly, it's always kind of this weird tone. What's up? How's it going? This is blah, blah, blah. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. And you're a plumber yourself, likely. And so you're asking way too many questions.
Yeah. You want to know.
You're like, oh, okay, what size water heater is it? Is it gas or is it electric? Is it in the attic? And you're like, okay, we need to send 2 guys. You guys can pick up a gas water heater.
Yeah, you're like yelling off the phone and everything or whatever.
And you send your guys out, 2 guys, because it's in an attic with a gas water heater. And then you get there and you present an estimate and the customer doesn't want it. Or it's not even their water heater that's leaking, right?
Yeah.
So like that's a good point. Getting the information, like in that instance, if your CSR put water heater leaking, perfect. Send your guy out there.
Sure, to go actually figure out what's really going on.
Yeah.
Because they might walk out there and be like, holy crap, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
Like, that water heater is not the problem.
Yeah, maybe the water heater is not even the problem,
Yep.
right? Always go look at the job, assess the situation, give your customer solutions, sell the estimate. Then if you have to go get parts and do the work.
Yeah, don't anticipate the sale because that doesn't make
Never.
any sense.
Never.
Yeah, that's like
Don't
way
assume.
cart before the horse.
Don't assume you're going to know what parts you need. Like the chances of that working out are super slim.
Yep.
And then you end up with parts that you bought that are just going to roll around the van and get destroyed. It's the reality of it, right?
That's
it really
that's
is.
really funny, but that's true. Yeah.
Like if you don't have the parts on the van when you get to the job, then when you're estimating the job, include time to go get the parts you need to do the work to fulfill the customer, right? Include it in your estimate.
Yeah.
Then you're getting paid for it. You should always have like, the things you do all the time, you should have enough stock on your van. But for the other things, include the time to go to the store to get the stuff in your prices. Easy peasy.
We actually didn't, on the diagnostic part, we didn't touch on like actually do the diagnostic.
Oh, yeah. You actually have to do the diagnostic.
Yeah.
Like you actually have to go to the home. You can't just go there and say, oh, yeah, your drain's clogged.
Yeah, actually.
$600.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's clogged. $600.
Yeah, it
Can't do that.
looks like you described it properly to me.
You need to go there and ask them questions about their home. Ask them what's been going on. You need to, go look at their other drains. Whatever you got to do. And then give them options. So like, hey, looks like your whole house is clogged.
Right.
Pull the clean out, look in there, whatever. I don't know, whatever you got to do. And then give them options. Like, hey, so we can snake this drain and that's going to do this. We can get it cleared. Or we can snake it, get it cleared, and then we can run our camera down it, which will let you know if there's any like problems in there that need to be addressed. Like how many times has this happened before?
Right.
Has it happened often? When's the last time it happened? If it's happened before and it's happened 2 weeks ago, you can be like, hey, we should probably, snake this and then put the camera down it. That way we can see what's causing this, or you're just going to have to call us out in 2 weeks. Yep. That's providing value to the customer right there. Most plumbers aren't doing that. If you can do that and provide estimates, you're actually providing a diagnostic to the customer, right?
And remember, you're capable of doing this because you're charging enough to actually make money on this simple call.
Yeah.
Instead of, because I think what happens a lot is guys are like, I'm not going to make money on a 15-minute job. It's going to be like $90. Like, screw it. So why am I going to go there and provide this huge effort when I'm not going to make any money on it?
Right.
Because I got to get to the next job or the next job where the real money's made. I'm hoping for the high ticket because that's my money maker. Right. Not wasting time with these. Again, if you're priced properly, you're not wasting time.
You make money on every job.
You're making money on every job. You're
Every
doing work,
single
you're doing
thing.
a good job, you're serving the customer.
Correctamundo. Okay, back to scheduling. So, scheduling 2-hour time chunks. Average service call is 2 hours. So, it makes sense to schedule jobs in 2-hour chunks.
Dude, that was the easiest math we've ever had on this podcast.
It's rocket science. So, what we do is we do 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 2, and 2 to 4 are the time slots that we use. And then it gives us like, that's the time frame that you're going to show up at. So you can technically, your first job can run long into like, 10:30, and then you show up at 11 and you're technically still on time. Okay.
Yep.
So it's a short enough time frame to where it's comfortable with your customer, but a long enough time frame to give you some buffer room, right? And then key to this is if you're going to be late or you're going to like not show up on time, to communicate with the customer ahead of time.
Yeah.
So like the CSRs need to be watching the schedule like a hawk. If they see on the 8 to 10, they can go look at the estimate. If you have service tight, he sold 6 hours. He's only going to have time for one more call.
Right.
We need to figure out which one of these calls he's going to go to.
Yep.
Right. And reschedule all the rest or move the rest back. Right?
And if you can imagine yourself as the business owner doing the CSR's job, like that's a whole nother thing that you're not going to want to be able to make time for.
Yeah,
watching the schedule and then moving people and looking at what everybody's doing and really analyzing it from a strategic standpoint.
If you're a business owner with 3 people out in the field, you don't need to be doing that.
Yeah. Hire a CSR.
Hire a CSR.
And because you're not giving quotes over the phone, they don't have to know anything about plumbing.
Yeah. So the other part about this is triaging your calls. So as calls come in, if there's calls that are high dollar calls, you need to get to those ones first.
Is that what triage means?
Yeah. Okay. Regardless of what you have on the schedule, right? So if you've got a bunch of, P-trap replacements on the schedule, and those are only, $400
it's a weird
jobs.
Tuesday.
Weird Tuesday, yeah. And a water heater comes in, you need to move one of your P-trap replacements and put the water heater in there because the water heater is a much higher opportunity.
Yep.
And make sure and get to your higher opportunity jobs first.
Right. Yep.
Because if P-trap lady cancels, you only lost out on 400. If water heater lady cancels, you potentially lost out on 3,000 to 4,000. Right.
Yeah.
Big difference. This especially becomes important at scale.
Right.
Like if you have 10 calls a day and one of those is a water heater on average, then you're only getting opportunity for one water heater a day.
Yeah.
But if you're getting 100 calls a day and 1 out of 10 is a water heater, you have opportunity to get to 10 water heaters in a day. So if you can get to all the higher leverage calls first, you increase your revenue by a lot.
Yes.
And you need to take every opportunity you can to increase revenue because you're in business to make money. And you need to make sure that you do that.
It's also important to make sure that your CSRs are answering the calls.
Yes.
Yes.
They need to be answering the phones and answering them in the way that this call script is.
Yep. And then making sure that if they do answer them, how many of them are they booking?
Yep.
Do you have in there CSR metrics and KPIs that you should be paying attention to?
No, I don't. But reality is if your CSR isn't able to book 75, 80% of the bookable calls,
sure,
there's a problem.
Yeah.
A good CSR, you can. It's hard to have that judgment early on in your business.
Sure.
But if you're on any kind of software that can record your calls, you want to do that, and you want to go listen to them periodically and go have your calls get classified. So, in Service Titan, you can classify them this was a bookable job.
Yep.
This was a non-bookable job. Or this was just or this was a missed opportunity.
Sure.
We booked it, it was non-bookable, or we didn't book it.
Right.
It was bookable, but we didn't. Right.
Yeah.
Because if somebody's calling in for, hey, I need to pay my bill, that's not a bookable job.
Right.
They're just paying their bill.
Yep.
So you don't want to count that against your CSRs.
Yeah, sure. Good point. Yep.
But if somebody's calling in and it's hey, is this so-and-so's plumbing? One of your competitors, that's a bookable job.
Yep.
You should try and book them on the schedule, right?
Yeah, don't just say nope.
Nope. Click.
Yeah.
Be like, no, this is actually so-and-so plumbing, but we have slots open on the schedule today. What do you got going on?
Yeah.
Bam.
They're already on the phone with you.
Yeah. Try and get them booked. And then you'll know. And if they're not, like I said, if they're getting 80%, they're doing fine. Anything less than that, they either need some training or you need to get a new one. It's the most undervalued position in your business.
Yep.
You're paying money to marketing companies to generate calls to your business. And if your CSR is underperforming, you're throwing money in the trash can, out the window, whatever.
And this goes to you if you're still answering your phone and you're paying money to a marketing company.
Yeah.
And let's say that you are like, I'm not getting enough leads from this marketing company. You have to ask yourself, am I answering my phone every time? Like when it rings, am I answering it? Because if you're not, you are also just burning money from the marketing company.
You want that phone answered on, like ideally, on first ring.
Yes.
Like ring, hello.
Oh, man. In like where we live, if I could find any company that answered on first ring, dude, you got me.
You'd be blown away from the second they picked up the phone.
Yeah, I'd be like,
what's that? Jerry Maguire,
already?
you got me at hello.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about that.
Right?
Yeah.
That's true. You would. You'd have them at hello.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, dang.
Like any company.
They answer their phone.
Regardless of what it is. If I could call a grocery store and they answered first ring and I was like, holy crap, not even a phone tree? Like, what's up? Oh, you can help me?
And then they answered and they were friendly. And then they answered and they got you taken care of. And then they texted you your appointment details. And then they texted you a reminder.
My gosh.
And then they texted you when the technician was on the way. You'd be like, dang.
Yeah.
These guys are rad.
Yeah.
These guys are the best. I'll pay them whatever they want.
Yeah. I mean, you'd just be having fun already. I mean, I would be.
Yeah.
I don't know about everybody else.
And that's how it works. And that's the difference between being professional and non-professional.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And that's how you like separate yourself from the competition. And a lot of people don't understand it's that easy.
Yeah.
That may sound difficult. ServiceTitan will do all that for you just like that. The text messages part.
Yeah.
But the CSR is the other part, right?
Yeah.
Cool, man. There's one thing we didn't touch on in here. What was it? It was call triage. You want to triage your calls.
Yep.
Make sure they're answering the phone.
Put them in 2 hour.
2 hour time slots.
We didn't. We mentioned it, but we didn't talk about really how important the communication. Like we talked about the CSR watching that schedule, but man, it's like if you're going to be late to a job, you got to call. Like don't text them.
Have to.
Like call them and be like, hey, I'm going to be late.
Nothing will piss off a customer more
and
than you not communicating with them.
Yep. And I've heard it in the voicemails before where it's just like, hey, are you guys going to be here today?
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
We got to call that person like right now. Like
you should have already called that person.
Yeah.
If they're calling you,
you
got a problem.
Yep.
Yes.
Like even like in even for like wealthy plumber, like I'll see all the text messages that come through our system, like going after like Benton, like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, Benton, are you gonna respond to that? I get all anxious and I want to jump in there, but he's like doing something or he's already responding. Yeah. But like I feel like, oh my gosh, like we have to talk to that person. They're talking to us. Like, come on now.
Yep. Yeah. I agree. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah.
Okay, we're probably going to wrap this up with Sales 101. Man, this is my favorite topic. We could talk about this for an hour, and we're not going to get into the rest of it. So if you want to hear about all the rest of the goodies in here, then
stay tuned for part 3, part 2.5.
We're not having a part 2.5 or part 3. You'll just have to download the PDF.
Oh, dang, you're leaving us hanging?
Yep.
Gosh.
Again, if you made it this far, free copy in the description.
I gotta download the copy of this thing.
Hey, if you've made it this far and you've already, gotten a copy of this, we actually just updated it.
Sorry,
so you might
not sorry.
So you might want to go grab a new copy so you get some of the updated goodies. And I don't even remember what the updated goodies are.
Oh, dude,
they're not in this version. They're only in the version in the link in the description.
So, like by goodies, you mean like cookie recipes, or like what are you talking about?
All sorts of good stuff.
Oh, dude,
like grandma's famous cookie recipe.
Jared's grandma's favorite cookie recipe. Okay.
Plumbing business goodies. Okay, let's get through this sales system. So, a lot of people think of like end of story, your guys are selling to the customer, right?
Yeah.
And like we just talked about, you're selling to the customer. It starts with the way you look. It starts with how you answer your phone, how fast you answer your phone, the way you handle the phone call, the way you let them know about their appointment, when you show up on time, the way you communicate. Then when your guys get on site, it's the exact same thing. Like all of that pre-stuff is just selling them on your service, and it just continues all the way through, right? So it's not really like magic word sales,
Right.
like say this magic word. You're really just selling by serving the customer very well, right? And giving them what they want. So this is a sales system that I straight up stole from Ken Goodrich with Gettle Air Conditioning. He talked about this in his book,
The
The E-Myth for HVAC Contractors.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. Good book. Everybody should read The E-Myth, The E-Myth Revisited, and then they should read The E-Myth for HVAC Contractors.
Yeah,
E-Myth Revisited is really good. E-Myth for HVAC Contractors is very dry and boring. Sorry, Ken. But lots of good information.
Yeah. So even though, we did steal this, it's giving credit to Ken.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And like Tommy Mello uses a very similar framework. Like most people use a very similar framework to this, right?
Yep.
I just like the way this was put into an acronym that I can remember and that I can teach. So it's the RISE sales system, RISE, and it stands for Relationship, Inspect, Solutions, I had to look, and Execute, right? So first part is relationship. And it just simply means building a relationship with the customer, building a rapport with the customer, right? So when you go to their house, knock on the door, introduce yourself and what company you're with, and say hello. How are you doing? And then ask them like, hey, what brought me out to your house today? When you're in their house, if you really like their house, just let them know. Wow, this house is beautiful. This is awesome. How long have you lived here? If you see they've got dogs and you're a dog person, oh, cute dog.
Maybe even if you're not a dog person.
What kind of dog is this? I have a hard time with things that I'm not into. Actually,
Actually, you'd be like,
actually
what
BSing about.
sort of silly animal is that?
Yeah. If they've got jet skis and you're into jet skis, or if they've got a motorcycle in the garage, or whatever, their grass is super green, and you're like, how do you get your grass to be so green?
I have been wondering how to do that.
Yeah, just talk to them like a human being and build a relationship, okay? That goes a long way. All of a sudden, they know you're not some slimy salesman. You're just another human being doing a job, right? It'll go a long way. So during that phase of relationship, you can ask them a couple questions like, how long have you lived here? And how long do you plan on staying here? Those are very important. Now you know, like, okay, they're going to be here a long time. They're going to be here. They're planning on selling next week. They're planning on selling next year. They've lived here for 30 years. They've only lived here for a year. They'll have a better idea of the history of the house.
Right.
It'll give you good information on how to serve them best, okay?
Yeah.
So next phase is inspect, okay? You need to go inspect the problem.
Yep.
And you need to do it thorough enough to where you fully understand what the problem is, what the cause of the problem is, or what you need to do to determine the cause of the problem. You need to provide them, you need to think of like, okay, what's the solution to like the symptom? What's the solution to the root cause?
Sure.
What's a solution that could be maybe even an upgrade,
Right.
so that they'll never have this problem again? Like think of it like the whole picture.
Yeah.
Like inspect the whole thing so you have a solid understanding of what's going on.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Because this is leading into when you offer your options, you're not just offering pat options.
Yeah.
You're not just like, here's the standard options that come with this problem.
You can do that. Standard options, there's nothing wrong with standard options, but having this deep understanding of what's going on is going to help you better understand how to present the standard options.
Sure,
even,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In a way that makes sense to the customer. It's going to help you pick which one's better for them. So in this phase, you need to ask questions like, how long has this problem been going on? When did you start noticing this? Or is this the first time you've encountered this problem, right? Again, good information. So now you're going to go back and you're going to go to the step 3 is you're going to come up with solutions. Okay. So you're going to either custom make solutions based on what you saw and the problems you had, or you're going to pull up a, pre-built solution in your price book. Okay. And you're going to present those to the customer in a good, better, best format. Right. And you are then going to make a recommendation to them based on what you saw and how they answered the questions. Okay. So like if they're planning on selling the house, maybe this long-term solution isn't a good solution for them because they're planning on selling the house.
Yeah, it won't benefit them.
Yeah. So explain that to them. Like say, hey, company sure decide. If I was you, knowing you're going to sell in a year, I would probably just, get this line cleaned out.
Yeah.
And, it's only happened twice in the last 3 years. So you'll probably be good until you move out. And then, the next homeowner can deal with it. Unless you really want to get it fixed, then we can fix it for, this much.
Right.
But make a recommendation. And then you move on to stage 4, which is execute. So just do the work how you said you were going to do it.
Yep.
Do exactly what you told them you were going to do. And then go above and beyond. Leave it nice and clean.
Yep.
Like do a good job at it, okay? And really you need to like part of the execute is guiding the customer to a solution that works for them.
Right,
Okay?
sure.
And if none of your solutions work for them, then working your solutions to work with what they want or with their budget or with what they need, right? And being willing to do that with them. That's part of executing. It's part of like overcoming their objections, okay? If you do that system, you'll sell like a madman.
Right. And especially if this is consistent with the rest of your business experience.
Yeah.
Like, or their experience with your business, I should
Yes.
say.
Yep.
Like from the phone call to you showing up to how you look, how your van looks, like all that is going to make this work.
Yep.
Like this can work pretty well, but if you don't have those other things, it's just going to make everything harder.
Correct.
Like why build in all this extra resistance? That's why consistency is so important in your business and how you're actually presenting your product.
Correct. I agree. So that's the sales solution. What do I call it?
System.
Sales 101, the RISE sales system.
Yeah, the magnum opus.
The magnum opus.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch more info in here. It's really good. I recommend everybody read it, especially the P&L section. Like it's got a little diagram of what that looks like, so you guys can wrap your head around it. Super important. Again, link is in the description. It's free, so go grab a copy. It's free learning. It's free. Like I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah, and typically when I talk to guys, they read it in like one sitting. Like it's like 75 or 80 pages or whatever, but a lot of the guys they just power through it.
Yeah, it's not a difficult read. There's lots of diagrams.
Yeah, pictures. Yeah, I hear that guys will be like, yeah, it's really digestible. It's like it makes sense.
Yeah.
So
I'm a picture guy.
yeah,
I'm a short and sweet, to the point kind of guy. So is this magnum opus.
there you go. Nice, nice. Cool, man.
Cool,
well,
man.
thanks everybody. Thanks, Jared.
See you, man.
See ya. Boo, 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 boo.